Easy Cup!
Is enough for Collingwood. Centennial Cup champions in 2024.
What's going on, everybody? This is the OJHL All Access Podcast. And as promised, this is a family affair today. We've got everyone coming in to do our playoff preview for the first round. I want to welcome my special guest, Ron Valentine, OJHL feature writer, Alan Corkum, who does everything for every team, I feel like, including your TV, Joe Washkurak, who, buddy, I haven't seen for a long time. Welcome back, my friend. Joe and I used to do this every year, actually, the playoff preview. It became sort of a running joke, actually, but
it certainly was.
it was. I know we got ribbed about it too. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, guys. Really appreciate you taking the time. And Joe, for those who haven't heard, just a little bit of an announcement. Let us know what's going on right now.
Yeah, I'm no longer coach and general manager of the Mississauga Chargers. I've been there for 13 years, guys, and it was a great run. I just want to thank the Stockley family, Lloyd, God bless them, and Carol and Heather. It's been a great run, but good things come to an end, and it, everything's cool, and we leave on really good terms there, Alex. So I'll just leave it at that.
Joe, you were a lot of fun to cover. You were always great. You were total professional. Whenever going into that rink and, dealing with you guys, and you really sent some great players on throughout the years for sure. So, kudos on a great job that you did, even though, the overall success in terms of wins and losses, but you really developed a lot of players and you created some great young men in the process. So, on to bigger and better things, I'm sure, but we're glad to have you on today, buddy. Glad to have Ron, glad to have Alan. As we said, it's our first round playoff preview, guys. Let's get pumped on this. The playoffs kick off on Friday, correct?
Yep.
Friday's the starting point?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to talk about the intriguing matchups. We're going to get your predictions, and we're going to hold you to it. Let's start things off, guys, though, with first, leading into the playoff series, we throw them up, the coaches' power rankings. As we head into the first round of the playoffs, it is Trenton number 1, Leamington 2, Collingwood 3, JRC's 4, Haliburton at 5, Milton 6, Buffalo 7, Stouffville 8, Wellington 9, Patriots in 10, Burlington 11, St. Mike's 12, Cobourg 13, Pickering 14, King 15, and Niagara Falls 16. Gentlemen, is there anyone who has any argument with any of those spots? I'll just leave it at that, but what do you think? Whoever wants to jump in.
I think possibly the only two I could quibble with, I think King's a little low, and I think the Buzzards are a little low.
Yeah, head coach Joe?
Yeah, I would agree with Ron. Like, we just played King last Wednesday. It wasn't very close, and they played well, and, they've won some big games lately, and Jossy's doing a good job there. So I'm with Ronnie, and St. Mike's just, with David Almay and all the guys and playing in that tough rink. That's a tough place to play, gentlemen. So I'm with Ron on that as well, Bass.
Alan? Mostly agree?
For sure. On those ones, I'd say maybe Milton and Haliburton County could flip-flop. I think Milton maybe is number 5. They look pretty strong down the stretch with a couple of players like Luke Johnson, the super rookie rider, Callie. So maybe they could have a slight edge over Haliburton County. But for the most part, I would agree with the top 16 rankings.
Joe, I wanted to ask you about this because for a lot going down the stretch, it was funny looking at the CJHL rankings. They would typically have they would have either Leamington or Trenton. I think Trenton for the most part over top, number 1 for a while there. Then they would have Leamington, and then they would have either the JRCs or Haliburton maybe getting an honorable mention. Milton was I don't think if Milton ever cracked the top 20, but in the OJ coaches poll, a lot of the time they had Milton leapfrogging the JRCs and Haliburton. Would that be something that you would agree with? I mean, are you that high on Milton as well? Because I just found it fascinating that the coaches who watch these teams every day rank them differently than the CJHL.
I think Milton is a real sleeper team and might be the best team for the playoffs, guys. I know they're playing Ronnie's Burlington Cougars, so I don't want to say too much, but Dan's a good coach. They're big, they're tough, they can score. They have Carter Bickle in net. Their only issue, without throwing coaches under the bus, because I hate it, just the last couple of years, gentlemen, like they just can't seem to get out of the second round. Like they win their first round pretty. Well, last year Burlington was close, but then Leamington beat them, which I don't think they should. But Dan's got a really good team there, and I think that I think that they're built for a good playoff run, guys. That would be my sleeper team to maybe even make it to the final. I know that's crazy, but this team's pretty good, and that is a really tough place to play, as Ronnie and Al can tell you, because they're there doing their stuff there, and they're going to jam it in there. And guys, I'm telling you, watch out for the Milton Menace. That's all I can say.
But isn't it, guys? Isn't it cool? It's proof that it's in the GTA, but there is an appetite for it. You know, if you do it right, there's definitely an appetite for it. The way they've engaged with the community and got people out to that rink, and of course, just reestablished themselves, because for years they were the Ice Hawks, right? And then the Ice Hawks ceased existence, and then Ron, correct me if I'm wrong, it was Newmarket that ended up moving to Milton, correct? Was it Newmarket?
I
think it was.
I think it was. Yeah. And they became
and they became the Menace. They started anew with a brand new clean slate. But the way that they've engaged, I mean, Alan, you're a Halton guy too, and you've covered the Menace. I mean, it's pretty cool what they've done, and it just shows when you do it right that there is an appetite for it, isn't there?
Absolutely. Jason Trifon is the owner of that team, and he really stepped out in the community when they first became involved in 2019. And the social media aspect is really big. They're always putting their brand on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. They're getting out in the community. Look at the logo. It's probably one of the best, not even in the OJHL, but in hockey in general. That Menace logo is very sharp.
You're right.
So
no, definitely, guys. Anyway, you know what? We'll talk about Milton in a moment, because we're going to talk about their series. So first, what we're going to do is we're going to start in the East. I'm just going to throw up the standings for a second here. We look at where the teams finished up. Yep. Trenton, number 1. They were the overall champs as well. And with 97 points, followed by the JRCs, the Huskies, the Spirit. Love seeing the Spirit in there, by the way.
Yeah, good for them.
Stouffville had a great season this year.
Yep, they did.
The Dukes, the Buzzers, the Cougars, and the Panthers. So let's start things off, guys, with the number 1 seed, the Trenton Golden Hawks, taking on number 8, Pickering. Pickering had a scrappy season as well. They were a lot of fun to watch. Trenton won the season series 3-0-1. What's your take on this? You know what, Ronnie, I'll start with you. Let's get your take on this series. Trenton, number 1 seed against Pickering, number 8.
I'll preface that, Alex, by saying I'm not going to pick any 4-game sweeps, and if I was, this may possibly be the one that I would pick. For one reason, Quinn Binney is probably going to miss the whole series. I was talking to him the other day. He's the captain of the Pickering Panthers. He unfortunately broke his hand. And Pickering has improved as the season's gone on. They locked up that last playoff position. And, you know, they are a strong team. But when you start looking down that Trenton lineup, it's pretty difficult to find any holes. And people said, the defense isn't as good and anything else. You got a goalie who came in from nowhere and won his first 17 games in a row, Ryan Sanborn. But I mean, I'm going to say in this one, I'm going to give Trenton 4-1 advantage.
Okay. Joe, having faced these teams, what's your take on it?
Ronnie couldn't have said it any better, and I didn't know Quinn was out, and that's going to hurt. And I just want to say that Derek Smith and Rob Pearson are very, very good coaches, and I agree with Ron. I think Pickering can sneak a game out maybe on a sleepy Sunday night in the Pickering Rec Center. But Ron's right. If there's going to be a sweep, guys, and I hate doing this because I'm a coach, but that would be it for sure. And they're just too deep, too strong. Another tough place to play when you're jamming 1,000 people in a game, and you might go to Pickering with 100, and that's a big difference, I think, guys. Just my opinion.
Nothing's changed in 3 years, Joe. Every time that you and I would do this, you would always say, "I hate to do this."
I can't sue our coaches, guys. I can't do it.
Yeah. Alan, what's your take on it?
I would agree with both Ron and Joe on this one. I think Trenton will have probably an easy time. The thing that's going to help Pickering is the goaltending, though. Ian Micheloni came in during the season. He's a former OHL netminder. Him and Gavin Betts were a pretty good tandem in there. I think Micheloni, if he gets the call in the series, can steal a game for Pickering, but that's probably all they'll get. You have David Fournier and Teo Artichuk, 2 of the top 3 scorers in the league. And they had that goalie tandem as Ryan Sanborn and even Brady Spry had a great season in net for the Golden Hawks. I think it's just going to be too much for Pickering. And that hangar, as Joe said, is a loud place to play in Trenton. So I would give the Golden Hawks advantage. I'll say it'll be 5 games as well, not a sweep.
I was going to say 5 games as well, guys. That's my prediction as well. So, okay, let's do the second-seeded Junior Canadians taking on the Cougars. JRC swept the season series. And by the way, if I'm wrong on any of these folks, I apologize. This is me literally going through point streak, trying to match it up. But by what I saw, JRCs took the season series for nothing. There was at least one overtime game in there, though, I believe. Let's start. Let's just keep going in the same order then. Ron, what's your take on that series?
You look at JRCs have been playing playoff hockey for a long time. They've got Nathan Phillips, who used to be a Hamilton Kilty B, and he's their leading scorer. But by no means do they put all their eggs in one basket. They've got a very mobile defensive lineup. They started with 2 goalies, finished with 2 different ones, and they've been amazing.
Very good.
Ali Ulin, that came from the Rangers, that probably was up against 70 shots in a game, is showing how good he is now with a decent defense in front of him.
Yeah.
But you never know what you're going to get from Cobourg. I find them a very unpredictable team. Sometimes they look like world beaters. Sometimes they look like they're even in the game. My prediction, for what it's worth, is I'm going to go 4-2 to the Canadians.
Okay, let's go with Joe here.
I want to kind of what Ronnie said, like just Cobourg, and Mike D'Souza is a former player of mine, and I love him. We beat them earlier on this year, and I thought that they weren't very good at all, but then they go and beat like a Haliburton team the next day. Ron's right. It's just so inconsistent, and Connor's a good coach, and Dave doesn't. And Junior Canadians are only meeting. They beat us in overtime, but they had a lot of the play. If it wasn't for Hayden Sabrin, we don't get a point. But honestly, it may even be 4 games to 1, guys. I think the Junior Canadians are a very good hockey team. Very good, and I just find Cobourg just too inconsistent. Ron's right about that.
Okay, Alan, how about you?
I got to witness Cobourg up close a couple of weeks ago, filling in and Caledon doing a game, and they had they got it out a win. Caledon gave them a tough game, but a 5-3 Cougars win. But Cobourg, they have a few key weapons on there, but I think the Junior Canadians offense is just too much. Covering Georgia Raiders, you could almost call them the Toronto Junior Raiders. They have 4 ex-Raiders on that team. You have Christian Lamanna, Gabe Torello, Colin Mond, and Connor Thompson-Dick that I can just think off the top of my head. And as Ron said, Nathan Phillips is a young, exciting scorer. And the goalies have come in as well and done a great job. Because, they weren't doing well in their previous teams, which were Markham and North River. They come in, get a defense in front of them, and look what they do. So I think Cobourg's going to have a tough time. They will get 1 win in the series, but I think that'll be it. I'll say JRCs in 5 games.
I really like the JRCs this season. I'm going to give Cobourg a little more credit. I think it's going to be 6 games. I do think it'll be the JRC, but if they can get a couple good crowds in there in Cobourg, and get the boys going. They've got a great rink and a great fan base there in Cobourg, but I think JRCs are just a little bit too strong this season. So my prediction is 6 games for the JRC. Haliburton St. Mike's. This is one of the more fascinating matchups of the first round, I think, guys. Number one, you can never count out St. Mike's.
No.
With Ricci's teams, they've always got some really high-end talent. Haliburton's got a lot of some really good veteran experience, some OHL guys in there as well. Huskies won the season series 3 games to 1. But want to get your take, guys. Let's start with Ronnie again. Ron, what do you think?
The one thing about those games is they were all played before the first week, before the second week in December, and they, the makeup of teams changes from the start of the season where those results came from. Joe knows very well, I'm sure, that playing in Haliburton is not easy with those fans it's the small rink, the fans, and everything else. You've got to really. I talked to David Elmy, and he seems very confident. Last year, the Buzzers went on an 11-game winning streak going into the playoffs. This year, I believe they're on an 8 or 9-game winning streak. I'm not sure which 9, I think. So they're peaking at the right time. They've got a tremendous amount of talent on that team. The defensemen can skate, but they can play defense, which is what they're supposed to do. Elmy's a game breaker. And, you go down the line. I'm picking the Buzzers in a very, very close series, 4 games to 3.
Joe, I want to get your take on this one as the coach.
That's, if there's going to be an upset, agreeing with Rob, which is great, I guess. But Haliburton, the great fans, big ice, freezing cold in that rink. Just to add it to you guys, if you haven't been to Haliburton, and Haliburton to St. Mike's, that's a long trip, and you got the extra home game, but something about St. Mike's, they just seem to have a little bit of, I don't want to say luck, but they have game breakers, and not that Nathan Poole or Ty Petru or the guys up there aren't, but they just find a way to win, and I can see this go. It'll be a 7-game series. I'm just not sure who, but I'll take 7 games. I'm just not sure who, guys. I'm just being honest here. So.
We're not letting you off the hook, buddy. We are not letting you off the hook. You got to name one team. You didn't say it was going to be a sweep, so you don't have to.
No, it's going to go 7 games, and just to go against Ronnie because he's a Burlington guy, I'm going to say Haliburton then. All right.
Okay. And Alan, what about you?
Yeah, St. Mike's, you can always never count them out. They have that small ice surface there at St. Michael's College Arena. I mean, unfortunately, they don't get the fans there. Hopefully, some more fans might come out and enjoy those games. Because Haliburton, as you said, Joe, gets big crowds up in Minden and they rock the place.
It's tough.
I have to agree with the pick of Joe, but I think it might be last games. I'm going to say Haliburton in 6. I think the offense might overtake St. Mike's a little bit. I know they have David Elmy, who's been a great scorer. I just think Haliburton will finally get over the hump, and I'll say 6 games for the Huskies to win this series.
All right.
Yeah, that's a good call. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to say this is going 7. And boy, I mean, St. Mike's on the streak that they're riding right now going into the playoffs really says a lot. The difference, I think, might be just those veteran guys that Haliburton's got that have got some major junior experience. And let's just be completely honest. Haliburton will get home crowds. They'll get loud. Yes. They'll get big. St. Mike's in that beautiful old arena.
It is. It's
terrible.
Doesn't
get more. It's unfortunate because it's such a great tradition. It's such a great rink. Just oozes character. History But let's just be honest here. When it comes to crowds, Haliburton's going to get it. I think it might lift them over the top, but it's going to be a heck of a series.
Yes.
And then we got. This is the most intriguing matchup to me. It's Ron and I had a laugh about this before we started recording here. Number 4 Stouffville, number 5 Wellington, deadlocked at 70 points apiece, same amount of wins, out of losses, and ties, and they split the season series 2-2. I mean, that's pretty insane.
How do they determine? Sorry, Bass. How do they determine home ice? Like, I don't know the rules for that. I guess I should. Ron's
going to tell us. Ron's going to tell us. Yeah.
Because everything was tied, wins, losses, ties, and head-to-head was tied. So they had to go into goals for. I think it's goals for divided by goals again.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
And Stouffville came out just slightly the better. It's funny you should say that though, because I sent a note to Jim Mason, who's the communications director of the league, and I said, Jim, what happens in the case that they're tied on goals even? He said, well, it's very easy. It's muskets at noon.
I was going to say flip a coin, but that sounds better too.
Good answer, Jim. He's pretty sharp, isn't he? I love that one.
Yeah. A good man.
But he's a great guy. Yeah. Okay. So they split. I was going to say, let's not talk about nickel and coins and wars right now, because with everything that's going down.
Good point.
Oh boy. That'll just take us down a whole different path, won't it? So, but okay, so let's start with you, Ronnie. What are you seeing in this series? Season series split 2-2, but this is going to be a lot of fun to watch. This is must-see TV right here.
Oh, for sure. I was talking to David Pagley a couple of days ago, Stouffville's captain, and he said, we've always been the dark horse. And guys come up to me and say, oh, you got a bunch of no-names. He says, I'll take my 20 no-names against anybody else in this league right now. Wow. And Wellington, I know you're very familiar, Joe, Ryan Schaap. He's been a game breaker there. He's got over 30 goals and key goals and everything. This is going to be a really, really close series. But I think the spirits have matured so much. They've come together. They got Riley Pope, who's come through. I wouldn't say out of nowhere, but he's come through to be their leader in his final year, for sure. I'm going to go with the Spirit 4-2.
Yeah, and I was going to say, let's not forget Demiglio as well.
Yes,
Who's going to Boston University. By the way, I have an OJ reel coming out this week on him. Just wanted to pump it for a second here, but going through some of his highlights from the season have been fantastic. That kid is a absolute game breaker. So, but yeah, Joe, go tell us what you think about the series.
Well, as Ron said, Ryan Scott's one of my favorite players of all time. I think he had 67 points. But Ryan, I love you if you're listening to this, but I do think it's Stouffville's year. We played them once, and I was very, very impressed with that team. And they just work. Nathan Downey, is it Nathan Downey, Ron? I think that's his name, because we only played them once, but he made some saves. And
Kyle Downey, yeah.
Yeah, Kyle, my bad. Sorry, Kyle. Kyle Downey played well. TJ Hill's a good coach, and I know the guys up Ken and my buddy Max up in Wellington. The only thing that scares me a little bit, again, Wellington's going to get 1,000 people. Stouffville does pretty well. Hopefully people out in Stouffville, they get their 300. They do an excellent job there. Reese and Andrew and all the guys out there. And that's going to be a great series. But I think it's Stouffville's year. I think it'll be a 6 or 7 game series, and I'm taking Stouffville as well.
Well, Alan and I can commiserate on this one because, Alan, what year was it? Was it 2010-11 when the Raiders played Stouffville in the conference final or in the semis?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, it was one of the best series that, I've seen in of all my years of covering the OJ, one of my favorite series. Of course, our Raiders lost in that. Alan, I'm not sure if you were calling it yet, but I was filming it anyway, and I was going to Stouffville, and that rink was jammed.
Good.
That rink was absolutely jammed, and they traveled well too. They packed probably at least a third of the rink, if not half of it, in Georgetown. So Stouffville has its fans for sure. It's been a long time since they've had that kind. They haven't won a title since. It's been a long time since they've had that kind of success, right? So hopefully this has reawakened something in Stouffville. Like you mentioned, hopefully they've been getting that 300 or whatever, but hopefully it just means more and more folks coming out to the rink in Stouffville.
Yep.
But I'm going off here. Alan, what do you think about the series?
I think it's going to be probably the best one in the Eastern Conference. I mean, I had to see Stouffville up close a couple of weeks ago in Georgetown. They were a machine. Downey had a great performance in net. Riley Pope looked good. They have a former Oakville Blaze there, Lachlan Wells. He's had a pretty good season for Stouffville as well. He's a good forward, and they have a few other players. But as we said, they're not really meant to have one or two big stars. They just have a team that works hard. Maybe it's a bunch of no names, but you know what? It's all about the team, and that's what happens at times. It doesn't matter if you have one guy that's got 100 points and the rest have 30 or 40. It's all about playing together, and that's what this team does. They work hard. I think it's going to come down to that Game 7 in Stouffville to decide the series. I'm going to give the Spirit the edge because they have home ice advantage. So I'm going to go with Stouffville in 7. And I think that year that Georgetown played Stouffville, I think it was Drake Gajula, the former NHLer or current NHLer, AHLer, that was the star of the Spirit.
Yep. You actually, he wasn't the star though. He was a very good contributor, but I remember it was Finch and Power, I believe, were the two guys, if I got that name right.
Christian
and Gajula,
Christian Finch.
Yeah. And so, guys, Stouffville fans, if I'm wrong, please call me on this because I don't have this. I'm just going by memory here.
Yeah.
But those were the two guys. And Kajula was a good player, but I think he was a bit younger than the other guys.
Yes.
Those two, I believe, were 20-year-olds or 19. So
you're right.
Big difference at that point. But they were a good team. They got to the RBC that year, I believe, as well. Yeah. Well, at least at the very least, they won the Buckland that year. But I'm going to mirror Alan on this. Actually, I think Stouffville 7, that home ice. Hopefully, it's packed for Game 7. I'm even calling it in overtime for Stouffville in Game 7. Well, because I mean, there's been nothing to choose.
Yes, exactly.
I could see it being that kind of a game,
close.
So I mean, and I'll tell you what, man, if I'm right on that, I'm going to go play the lottery. So with a prediction like that, but yeah. So okay, that's the East. Great stuff, guys. Let's move to the West here. Let's quickly take a look at the standings. Leamington, what a season Leamington's had. 94 points. Our two-time defending champions going for 3, the Blues, second place with 90. Then there is a bit of a spread down to the Menace in third, but as you guys have said, that might be the sleeper team of the playoffs. The Menace in third with 77. Sabres with 71. Patriots, who I've loved watching this season as well, with 68 points.
Yeah.
A lot of talent on that team. Cougars 67, King Rebellion 55, and the Canucks made it in. Frank and his boys made it in.
Good for them.
That,
good for them.
Yep, good for them in their second year of junior A hockey with 52 points. So let's start things off, guys, with the Leamington with the Flyers. So this is interesting because it's a battle of those two former junior B teams, right? Who would have faced each other for years going back, you know, and we've seen, you know, Leamington's transition has been a little bit, well, it's very seamless into junior A hockey. They've just been incredible. For a while there, I believe for a couple of weeks did they make it to number 1 in the CJHL rankings this year? Trying to remember. Yeah, I think at one point they were at least.
I think that, not to pat myself, but the time we beat them in Leamington, I believe they were number 1 at the time. So somebody could check that out, though. Somebody could check that out.
Yeah,
yes,
you beat
Leamington. Really home losses.
But Joe, who else?
They're only home loss.
You also beat Haliburton earlier in the season, didn't you?
Yes.
And was there another one? Those are two huge ones. Was there anyone else that, like, any of the big boys you took down? I'm trying to remember.
Cobourg, Buffalo. We beat Pickering beat us in overtime. Sorry. I was going to say when junior Canadians beat us in overtime on a power play goal. Like, we've had some good games against some of the top teams. Yeah.
You know, you can dine out on that Leamington one though forever. That's
that was
team in Canada at the time.
That was pretty electric, and the next time we came there was 1,500 people waiting to kill us that night, and it was a close game too. You know what I mean? So it was great, and
that's why you play the game. That's why you play the game, though. You never
100%.
know.
You never know.
So
that's right. That's 100% right, guys.
That's what makes the playoffs so fascinating as well. You got Leamington, Niagara Falls. The Falls will be up for it. Maybe they'll get some good fans out for this as well because they're, rival from their league. So I mean, they know each other very well going back. The two fan bases. Flyers did win the season series 4-0. Let's start with you, Ron. Is there some, like I said, this is why we play the game, but this would definitely, on paper, along with probably the Pickering series, look to be the series where if there was a sweep, it could happen. I don't think it will, but there's no question the Flyers are the heavy favorite in this series, Ron.
We were sitting with the crazy Leamington fans on Friday night at the Central Wellington. And they were a little bit disappointed. They wanted the Leamington King matchup, so it would be Vandenberg versus Altman.
That'd be cool.
They both started as a dynamic duo for the same team, and then of course they traded Trey to King. You know, this is really a team that, again, I can't see too many real deficiencies in this team. Colton Smith is obviously MVP type of player, but even when he is not contributing and everybody else just chips in, and it seems to be like that game after game for Leamington. Dale Mitchell is a loud coach. I think he's a great coach. He gets the players totally, you know, and they know exactly what they're going to do every time they go on the ice. Niagara Falls has got 3 very, very strong players, Parker Forlin and what's his name? The second scorer there too.
Wolf Giles. Is it Giles running?
Giles, and Braden. Braden O'Keefe.
O'Keefe.
And Forlin went, as you know, to New Brunswick and then came back, and that might have been a bit of a disruption. The Flyers have not been on a good streak for the last few games. Unfortunately, they've. I think they almost went winless in February. I'm going to go with Leamington 4-1. Just as you said, Alex, it's, you know, Niagara Falls will steal one, but it's 4-1.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, Joe, what about you?
Yeah, I would say the same. You know, Leamington to Niagara Falls cannot be around the corner, so somebody's going to have bust legs one day. And you know, I think if Niagara Falls is going to win a game, it definitely will be at home. And Ronnie may know more than me, but I haven't seen Odell play in the last few games. Ron, did you know anything about that? Like, I haven't talked to Frankie, but that's a huge hole on their blue line. Just because I look at the box scores and stuff and whatever, right? So,
as a matter of fact, I was talking to him yesterday because I talked to the captain prior to this.
Beautiful.
He got a concussion, I think, 4 games ago. They've been playing so many games in such a short time.
Yes.
He tells me for sure he's going to be back on Friday, and that'll make a big difference because there's a defenseman he's played in the OHL and everything. Yeah,
I worked for Oshawa, as you guys know, when he was there and Super Kid, and that'll definitely help. And Kingo can steal a game, but
Yep.
but we've already talked about, that's just a deep team. With if Colton's not going, then it's Grunder or it's Cook or it's the other
Yeah.
Grunder or it's, oh my God, it's Sarah Matera. Like they're very, very deep, guys. They're very, very
Yeah.
deep. And then then you got to score. Then you got to score. Like that's the other issue, is that when you get past that, you have a great goalie in that. And the game we did beat them, Ultimate wasn't that. It was a 3-2 game, guys. It's not like we whacked them. It was a 3-2 game, but the shots were pretty even too. So it was one of our better games in our history, that's for sure. So it was awesome.
Alan, what's your take on it?
I have to agree with Ron and Joe. Yeah, unfortunately, Niagara Falls, great team, but they backed into the playoffs. They finally ended a 10-game winless streak in the last game of the season by shutting out Georgetown 2-0.
Yeah.
True.
Kale Kingo was a veteran goalie they brought in early in the season from Collingwood. He started there, but then Collingwood got Tegelar. We'll talk about him probably momentarily.
Yeah.
Kingo did well, but he looked a little shaky in the game against Georgetown here. But a week ago, I covered that when they lost 6-2. They lost to Oakville as well a couple of nights later. It's going to be tough for Niagara Falls. But as I said, Kingo's a veteran. He might steal a game. They got some great scoring. Forlan with his 40th in that win against Georgetown. This would be, I think, the best chance of a sweep in the first round. So I'll say Leamington in either 4, maybe 5 games tops.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm taking Leamington, but it's in 5. That Niagara Falls team has been scrappy all year. I'm glad they've made the playoffs. Listen, it's not every team's going to be like Leamington and have this. I mean, Leamington, almost made the finals last year in the very first year of junior A hockey, which is crazy, but really happy to see, Niagara Falls in there. And by the way, I had Frank on the show. This is one of my favorite shows this year. He's just so much fun to talk to.
Yeah, he is. He's a great guy. He's a great guy.
Yeah, because I had him and I had Pearson on the same show.
Yeah.
And got to talk to them both about their playing days. And but Frank's just he's a great guy.
He's a character. Frank's a character.
he's a character, but you know what? He's in Niagara Falls. He's a Niagara Falls guy. Though.
Oh, he loves the Falls.
And I love it when I love it when they come back to their hometown and they start, they have a team in their hometown. They're doing it for the right reason. The passion's there and they've got it in the Falls. All that being said, sorry, Frank. My prediction is, I think it's Flyers in 5, but I think it'll be a fun series to watch once again.
Yep.
So let's move to Collingwood and King. So the second seed against the 7th. Team split the season series 2-2, guys. King has been a Jekyll and Hyde team at points this season. Ronnie, I think you were expecting a little bit more from King this year with some of the guys they had. From some of the discussions we've had, from what I take, unless I'm wrong on that. But listen, they're in the playoffs, the former 99ers, of course, but they're going up against the 2-time defending Buckland Cup champs, the defending national champions who are going for a 3-peat. What's your take on this series?
Just following up on what you said, Joe, about teams, that deserve to be there. I think no team has backed into the playoffs this year. You can't take a team this year and say, they backed in the playoffs. They only got a 400,
no,
average.
You're right.
And and at this level of hockey, you've got to give credit to all the teams, and that's the main reason I didn't pick any sweeps, but and probably
100%.
Collingwood. How do you follow up a Centennial Cup champions? And they had an incredible number of injuries this year. I know injuries happen to every team, but they have had key players out at different times. And Andrew is doing a great job there. Andrew Campoli, I think he's managed to keep this team going. Now they're almost back to 100%. And as you said, Alex, King has won 2 games in the series. So in the regular season series, I've got to go with Collingwood 4-2. It could even be 4-3. King is not going to lay down and die. They're so workmanlike, but I'm going to go Collingwood 4-2.
Well, you're talking about injuries and stuff, and then Jack Rimmer, leaving.
He was one of the early ones
down the stretch. I mean, that's Joe as a coach.
That's tough.
I mean,
that's tough.
So let's talk about the series, or your take on the series, Joe, but also what that does to a team's psyche having. A guy who, they bled together. He won the Centennial Cup with them last year. And then at the most important time, right before the playoffs, he leaves. Give us your thoughts on the series and also what that does to to a team and the psyche of the players.
Sure. Yeah, I agree with Ronnie a little bit. That's a 4. Like the Kings playing very well. They got some guys, and you know, they got Sakharov, Nakarov, like whatever, and they have you know, Macharles was just coming back from Sudbury, which is a huge boost to them. And we played them 2 of the last 4 games. A game in King, it was a 4-3 game. It was a great hockey game, and then they blew us out 10-4. I don't like talking about that, but it did happen. Altman's played both games, and then the 4-3 game in King, he made some really good saves, and I thought we could have won that game. So he's a huge key. They're playing well, and Mark's coming off a Coach of the Year, right? But as you said, Collingwood is still the champs, and until somebody beats them, they're the champs.
Yeah.
I don't know, you know, if you want to talk about Jack, I know they don't want to talk about that a lot. Like Mike Tarantino's a very close friend of mine. The thing that really killed me, guys, is when you leave after January 10th. Like, that was the killer. Did he not leave after the deadline? Like, am I wrong by that? And now you can't throw your team with somebody, right? Like, somebody would have to check the date on that.
And he started the season, he'd only played a few games, and he got a ruptured spleen or some really serious condition like that. I was just surprised to see what happened. I don't know the ins and outs of it, but
nobody's there's only 2 people that know, the Collingwood Blues and Rimmer's representation and Jack himself. But if you look it up, fellas, I'm pretty sure he left after the deadline. So and you get nothing for him when you go to BCHL. He went to a Nanaimo, I think, who I don't even know if they were in. Like, are they even in a playoff spot right now, guys?
No. Like I said, so the release on their website is listed at February 6th. So
then there you go. That's a double killer. That's a double killer. But Mike, hey, that is a really tough building to play in, fellas. That's a really tough building.
You know what? Like, I mean, listen, like Jack has been a great player, and we're not trying to knock that.
No question. And I don't know him. But
it's a discussion we have to have, though. It's a discussion we have to have because that's, you know, I mean, that's a tough hit, right? That's absolutely a tough hit. So, but anyway, so what was your prediction, Joe, for the series?
I would say 4 games to 2-2. I think King's going to surprise those guys a little bit, and you know, with the new rink there, and it's a little bit bigger, and but also, and just one thing I'll say, with Jack leaving, that could bring that team together, though, and that's maybe something that they needed, fellas. Do you know what I mean by that? Like something like that, they're just going to say, hey, you know, pardon my language, screw that kid, and you know, that's maybe something that they needed, fellas. You know what I mean? Like, we took a point off them up there in Collingwood, and that's another team, and we were up. You know, maybe why I'm unemployed, but we were up 4-1 going into the third.
Joe, that might have something to do with it, buddy.
It might have something to do with it. We were up 4-1 going into the third, and they actually scored. And God bless them, Wyatt Ginman scored about 20 seconds ago to tie it, and they scored on the first shift. They're so good. There's 1,200 people. Mike does it well. Camper does it well.
It's going to be.
They're just a great organization, fellas.
It'll be one of the best coaching matchups. I mean, you've got Johnson, who I just, man, I got all the time in the world for Mark.
Too.
You know, like
Me too.
I had him on the week that him and Camilleri were.
That was cool. That was cool.
I keep saying, that was one of my. I had so many favorite shows. I mean, for crying out loud, but
that had to be up there.
On was so much fun, and you know, and going up against him and Campoli, man, it's going to be the X's and O's matchup, man. Two really, really good coaches.
And good people,
Alan,
too.
For sure. No, great guys. Yeah. Alan, what's your take on the series?
I think it's going to be a good series. I think Collingwood, though, might have the edge. I'd say 5 or 6 games for them, but they have some great scores as well without Rimmer. They have Damon Booz. They have Marcus Lougheed, who played last year for them. And look at the goaltending. Noah Tegelar is actually a Georgetown native, came in from up north. They traded Kingo when they got Tegelar, and he was a bit of an unknown, but he had a great season up there. I think he had like 10 shutouts as well this year. He was up and down recently with the OHL. I believe it was I think it's the Sioux. So he's back now. It seems for a playoff run. So if he can provide
challenge.
He's been a great goaltender. And King had made so many changes. It was funny. Their team this year, as you said earlier, Alex, Jekyll and Hyde, because I mean, they made so many moves that they traded like Kojakaru and Andrade to the Patriots. I thought, okay, what are they doing? And then they get Ultimate from Leamington, and it's like, okay. And then they were out of a playoff spot going into after the trade deadline. They were behind Georgetown, but then we all know what happened in Georgetown, and then King came on at the right time, and they got into the playoffs. They might put a little scare into Collingwood, but I think they're the chance for a reason. The chance will stay and moved around to, I'll say, Collingwood in 6.
Sure. Yeah, that's That's my prediction. 6 games. I think that, and I've enjoyed watching King this season as well. But I mean, listen, Collingwood, in order to be the champs, you got to beat the champs. And Collingwood has they've got the experience. They know how to win. They're just super strong. It's going to be interesting this year because Collingwood is not going into the playoffs as the favorite this year. So I'm very interested in seeing what's going to happen this year, how they react to it. If it's been a little bit of rope a dope, maybe, if they've just been saving their best for the playoffs as well. Obviously they've been excellent all season, but my prediction is 6 as well for the Blues in that one. Okay. A Halton region battle. Number 3, Milton. Number 6, Burlington. Alan and Ron are going to have a lot to say about this one, but that is going to be just a great battle. And I think you guys have all indicated, well, at least a couple of you guys did, you think that Milton might be the sleeper of the playoffs.
That's just me.
Yeah. Was that only you said that? Oh, I think I said that.
I don't know. Well, Ron's a Burlington guy. He's not going to say
Ron's
that.
a Burlington guy.
And I wouldn't expect him to.
No, like we discussed, Milton getting a lot more respect from the OJ coaches. I mean, who clearly see something in them as well. But okay, so number 3 against number 6, Milton in that 3rd spot. Cougars won the season series 3-1. So another fun little wrinkle there. Ron, go ahead. What are you going to say?
It's funny, Joe, you should say that because when they posted on Twitter the top 20 teams CJHL rankings, I put a little reply and I put, someone in the CJHL doesn't like Milton, LOL.
Yep.
And probably got me in the bad books there, but it's been a frustrating experience watching the Cougars this season, to be honest.
Yeah, I bet.
They can look at take the game against Leamington, the last game they played.
Yeah.
They can look like they can take on any team.
I agree.
And then they lost to Caledon, both at home and away. Teams that they should be beating, and they didn't. Now, they said the goalkeeping was going to be a little bit suspect. They got Michael Newlove, as you know, NHL-rated goalie. He has not played his best, I don't think, yet for the Cougars. He was fantastic in Friday night's game against Leamington with his bright red pants from the Windsor Spitfires.
Yeah, I know, we saw him Saturday. Yeah,
he was really good in that one.
Yeah,
Milton has got a tough defense. They love to play physical hockey.
Oh, they ever!
It gives them a boost to play in that arena. Graham McCauley, I think, is one of the best defensemen in the league, and they've got players that can score by committee. Simply because Mark won't let me in to the next game, to the next series. If I don't say this, I'm going to take the Cougars in 7.
Yeah, that's like you're no one accused you of being stupid, Ron. So you want access to your Cougars game. So but the Cougars also, I mean, for a good part of the early season, they were up there with Leamington in terms of battling, and they really kind of faded, didn't they, down on that 6th spot. Yeah. As the season went along. So, Joe, what are you saying?
Well, I'm a little confused. Well, obviously I've talked about Milton, but I have to add, and Ron probably knows, and Alan and you, Bass, like my son Austin played for Mark in Burlington. Right. So I got a soft spot for the Cougars, and if it wasn't for the Cougars, Austin doesn't go to Canton and get his degree and meet his wife. So I got a lot of time. I want to say, all kidding aside, I got a lot of time for the Burlington Cougars and Mark Juris. I just think this year, Ron said it, like nothing against the Caledon Admirals, but those are teams that you can't lose to. And I watched the game Thursday. I'm like, wow, we played these guys Saturday. We have a chance to win. And they beat the best team in the country, or one of them, the next night. 2-1, Ron? Like they didn't give up anything. They were tremendous. But I just think from the 4 games that we played Milton, we only had really one good game. They have a good power play. They're tough. They're mean. Dan's a good coach. They have Bickle in net. But at the end of the day, I think it's a 7-game series, and it'll come down between Carter Bickle and Michael Newlove. That's my prediction, and that could be an overtime game too, because those are 2 really good goalies. And nothing against Carter, because when he was with the Osprey Generals, he played some games with us, as you know, and he's a great kid. And I don't know Newlove that well, but I'm a massive Michael Newlove fan, guys. And I think that as much as I love Milton and that, like I'm going to predict him to win in 7, but if Burlington's going to win, Michael Newlove has to steal him a game or 2, guys. That's my thoughts.
Alan, 2 teams very well, being a Halton guy. So, Alan, your take's going to be fascinating on this. What is it?
going to be, I think, probably one of the best series, as I say, the first round for sure. I think it's going to go the distance as well. But yeah, I've seen Michael Newlove. He started the season in Georgetown, so I saw him up close, and he kept the Raiders in a lot of games. Maybe his win-loss record maybe didn't show it, but his goals against was pretty low. His save percentage was high. He gave the Raiders a chance every game, and when they traded him to Burlington, it really improved the Cougars, and unfortunately deflated the Raiders, as you saw what happened down the stretch. But yeah, Newlove can definitely steal a game or two, and he's going to have to against Milton. They are a tough team, a physical team. That's going to be a key as well. We were talking about Milton maybe having a few issues. The only thing I can see, I think it will be different in the playoffs, is discipline, because sometimes they seem to take a lot of penalties because of the rough and tumble play they do. They're going to have to stay with the penalty box. Can't give Burlington chances on the power play, but they have great players, a lot of great scoring at both these clubs. You got Luke Johnson of Milton who can score. You have the Ryder Cali. Just to name a couple. You have Madden McGougal had a great season, and then you have the defense. And you got a veteran defenseman that can not many points, but he can hit as Alexander Petreccia. He's going to be a big body with your legs body. You know that Madhouse, you guys, very well, and it's loud and proud. And when they start throwing the body around, the place goes nuts.
It's crazy.
And then Burlington, they have a lot of great players. Well, Tommy Carmeras came back from the BCHL. You had Alexander Stephen is exciting on every shift defensively. He can go end to end, 200-foot game for him. Even spent some time with the Steelheads this year in the OHL. And then you have Noah Garth, Matthew McMillan, Sinclair. Joe Sinclair had a great season as well. And there's a few of those guys. There's anybody.
He had a great season.
But I think as the Stouffville series, it's going to come down.
Bowling Green, right?
Bowling Green,
yeah.
Good.
Yeah. So what's your prediction, Alan?
I'm going to say the same as Stouffville. It's going to come down to the home ice. I'm going to say Milton is 7, but it could go either way. But I'm going to say the Menace is 7. The home ice, game 7 at the Madhouse is going to be the difference. But it's going to be a great series, and Mark and Dan are 2 great coaches, just like Joe, our buddy here. So we'll see what happens.
Thanks, Cork.
When you talked about discipline, isn't it a scientific fact that teams that wear black are more statistically likely to get called on penalties? Or am I thinking of red?
Really?
Like, am I thinking of red? I don't know. I got to look that one up. I could just be spewing BS here, guys. I don't know. But I was getting a kick out of that in my own mind.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Well, no, it's either red or black, which is kind of different.
I think if you have a red car, you're more likely to get a speeding ticket. I think that's
what I'm thinking about.
Right?
Maybe that's what it is.
Red and black. They get a lot of penalties.
Yeah. We're gonna have to Google this afterwards, guys. But I think it's gonna be a fascinating series.
Yeah.
I know Milton will pack it. I hope Cougars fans get out there and pack it as well, because they can. They're passionate.
Yes.
Let's get them out to the rink. And there'll be a lot of passion back and forth between the fans as well, being a Halton. All Halton matchup. And Cougars winning the season series 3-1. I think this is a year that maybe Milton breaks out, though. I've got a feeling about this team, the way they played. And I'm I don't like to parrot everyone else here, although Ron did take the Cougars because he wants admission to the rink.
Mark will kill him. Yeah, he's not getting in, so you got to do it.
And if Mark just does such a great job too with that team. But you know what? This is the year I'm going to take the Medicine. I'm going to take him in 7. I think it's going to be an absolute Milton madhouse in that that game 7. But that is going to be one heck of an entertaining series. So
I agree.
But we're running out of time here, guys. Let's just do the 4 versus 5 then. Buffalo and the Patriots. The Patriots took the season series 3-1. But this is the series that rounds out the Western Conference in our preview here, guys. So, Ron, let's start with you. What are your thoughts on this?
It's an ironic kind of a situation with the Patriots. I was talking to Bryce Cook this morning. They've got 3 other players on that team who have been already captains of the team this season. William Godfrey and Ryan O'Grady and Aaron Andre. They've all traded to the Patriots. They all wore the C for their other team. So leadership isn't a problem on that team. And they've got a guy on defense. It doesn't matter whether he's on the bench or on the ice. Nolan Connolly. People give him a lot of space. And I know, it can sometimes go perhaps the wrong way or a little bit overboard. But when you've got somebody like that sitting on the bench, then you know pretty well that you're going to be well taken care of. Buffalo were an in-and-out team. They've had a great run, though, coming into the playoffs.
Yeah, they're on a roll right now.
They are, and you know how tough they are to play in that arena. Plus, not only just getting across the border and all that kind of thing, but they're tough at home. To me, the Patriots had a big turnover all year long, almost as much as King. I'm going to take the Patriots in 7.
Buffalo enters they're on a 7-game winning streak right now. Looking at the standings, which is for the Sabres. Joe, what's your take?
You know what? Sean Wallace has done a great job. What did you say? They've unbeaten at 7. We just played them a couple Saturdays ago, lost in overtime. Grover played very well. But we've had success against Buffalo. The overtime loss, we beat them there 5-1 when Hayden Sabrin, as you guys know, scored there. And one game it wasn't great, but Sean's done a great job. I don't want to talk about other stuff that goes on in Buffalo, but we've talked about it privately, so we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
So it's tough to play in Buffalo. I'm just going to leave it at that. I think the Patriots have a really good team. If they can get everybody healthy, and I don't know if everybody is, I don't want to say, I'm not going to say stuff like that, as we all know, but I think that's a good team, and I think they beat Buffalo in 6, guys. I really do.
Well, let's just hope that we can all agree. Yeah, we can all agree on. Let's just hope that this is all about hockey, right?
Yes.
Let's leave everything else out of it. Kids just
100%.
go and play the game, and that's
100%.
the way it should be. And everyone should be respectful on all sides.
1,000%. Well said. Well said, Bas.
And Alan, what are you thinking?
I just want to echo about the U.S.-Canada thing. We have lots of great friends and lots of great people in the U.S. It's only one person that's the problem. It's not the U.S. They're great, and you should not be doing anything with the anthem. It should be respected by all people.
Completely agree.
And a sacrifice for themselves in that country, and the same
good
in Canada.
stuff, Cork.
Like getting back to the matter at hand, the Patriots have done a lot of turnover to trade line. I think was it Andrade and Kojikaro from the King Rebellion. They got some OHL pickups. Aiden Castle was there. Lucas Rodriguez, just to name a couple. And then the big trade with Markham where they brought in Godfrey, Tatarenko. So I just think they have too much talent. Alex Levshin's been a young Ukrainian goalie that's came in and done a great job.
Played well.
And the Buffalo's always a wild card in the OJHL. They always seem to have an impressive season. They're always in the middle of the pack, maybe not at the top of the conference. They always seem to be there at the end of the season. Yes, Sean Wallace did a great job. Dylan McFadden's one of their top players, a former Milton Menace player, and they have some other great. Josh Bristol, just to name one. Buffalo's going to give him a run, but I think it's going to be down to that Game 7 in Buffalo. But I think, as Ron and Joe said, the road team's going to steal one on the road in Game 7. I'll give the edge to the Patriots. Toronto in 7 over Buffalo, but it's going to be an exciting series between the Sabres and the Pats.
Yeah, you could be right, Cork. Yeah,
I'm taking the Patriots in 6 games. It's interesting. We're all taking the underdog in this one. Technically, anyway, right? So, Patriots did win the season. Patriots did win the series 3-1, and I mean they were only separated by 3 points in the standing. So I think it's going to be a really good series, though. This is, in all seriousness, guys, one of the most going to be one of the more interesting playoffs that we've had in some time. I feel like these are all really solid teams.
Yeah.
And I know we're talking about this before, but, if you went back, 15 years or so or something, back before the league contracted, the first round playoff series almost all the time a lot of the time, you could have some serious blowouts because there was such a difference top to bottom. And it's just not that much. It's not like that as much anymore. Every single team in there is a solid team. And how about this? Before we go, guys, let's keep it to maybe about 30 seconds or so. We'll go your most intriguing series. I want to hear from each one of you. Which series is intriguing you the most, Ron?
Well, it's got to be Stouffville and Wellington, simply because I've never seen the teams play each other in 4 and 5 that have to go down to goal differential to decide who's gonna make it through, and into 4th place. To me, Burlington Milton is always a great series too. I mean, you get those 2 teams together; they both want to win desperately. Mark hasn't had the best playoff record, so that's going to be. I would say those 2 would be my most intriguing 2 series for sure.
Okay, Joe, how about you?
Oh, geez, that's. I think the St. Mike's Haliburton one's going to be extremely intriguing, and I love the Burlington Milton matchup. I don't want to go all joking, like all serious. I'm not going to use the word war. I think we throw that around too much, guys. And hey, cancer too. I'm not using those terms, but those teams are going to beat the crap out of each other, fellas. I'm telling you, they hate each other. And I can't, as a coach, when you're done, you're a bit, tired from the season and that, but there's going to be a Friday night. I probably, because I live in Oakville, I'm going to come to Burlington and sit with Ronnie and watch a game, because that's going to be worth going to watch live. And Burlington fans, I know you don't have to tell Milton people, but Burlington people, go support this team, because it's going to be worth your $15-$16, whatever they're charging. Trust me on that one.
All right. Alan, how about you? What's your must-see, most intriguing series?
It's got to be a no-brainer. Got to go along with Ron and Joe. It's got to be Milton, Burlington in the West for sure. I mean, I've covered those teams a lot this season for your TV, and it's been exciting games. They said Burlington won the season series, but both teams have something to prove in the playoffs. And they're great coaches, Dan Del Monte and Mark Juris. They never got over the playoff hump. Milton got close to the year. The season that was shortened because of COVID.
Yeah, the COVID.
They got to the conference final, lost to Pickering.
Yeah.
Got to the second round a few times, but they haven't been able to get over the hump and get into the league final. Is this year, and the same with Burlington. They're able to get to the second round. One year they got to the conference final, but they never got into the league final. Can one of these two teams finally get over the hump? And it's going to be tough with Leamington and Collingwood in this conference, but can Milton and Burlington do it? I think another interesting series will be that Wellington-Stouffville one, because of how close it is.
Good point, guys.
Always a great team. So we'll see what happens. But Milton-Burlington is my must-see TV series of the first.
It sure is.
We're all in agreement. I mean, those are my two as well. I'm so intrigued by Stouffville. Stouffville. It's just really cool to see them up there again, and I think they could possibly go on a run this year. I love the makeup of that team. But I'll tell you what, because I can't be there physically because of my current geography, if I was to pay money for one game, it would be to sit in the Madhouse in Milton for that Burlington series. That's what I'll say. So that's my most intriguing series for sure. But I'll tell you what, I've also never been to a game in Leamington, and I'll tell you, I'd love to go see a game in Leamington.
That's awesome there too, guys. It's awesome there too.
1,500 at the Farm Fresh Center.
Nature Fresh.
Nature Farms or something. Nature Fresh.
Yeah,
Nature Fresh. Yeah, we got to get our sponsorship. Right.
And those
Nature
fans
Fresh. Sponsor the show,
dedicated.
please. But they're dedicated fans, and
they are.
And that could be a really, you never know, because of the fact they know each other. They've got a history together from playing back junior B. You never know. It could be a really interesting series as well. But listen, guys, thanks so much for taking the time. We're obviously going to do this again as we go throughout the playoffs, but this was a really great way to kick things off. Everybody check the OJHL website for obviously the times where everything's kicking off, game times and everything, all the social media stuff. That's how you can stay up to date with everything that's going on in the OJHL all through the playoffs. It's who wants to sing it with me here? It's the most wonderful. No one wants to sing it.
Oh, you're a terrible singer.
Clearly, it was better for me to go
let's
to
stick to hockey talk, not singing.
than singing. Oh yeah. No,
stick to hockey talk and your craft beers, Bass. That's what you need to stick to. Okay,
that's it, buddy. Yeah. Clearly, I picked the right choice of a career and not as a singer. Hopefully, your ears aren't bleeding. But it is the most wonderful time of the year. The OJ playoffs, the battle for the Buckland, starting up. Enjoy it, everybody, and we'll go over everything that's happened on next week's show. Thanks for watching. We'll see you then.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.